Okay, so this is the wonderful show we have been waiting for. Fix My Love Life events. Today, I want to introduce this new event because it means a lot to me. And most importantly, there have been a lot of women who have contacted me asking about this event and sending in questions. So, welcome to the discussion between myself and the founder of the Love Method, Alex Zushni. So, what is this all about? Today is about love, relationship, but we kind of focus on how to choose a partner. But before we ask Alex the question, I want to set the scene very carefully. We live in an environment today where we have a lot of developments in the Western world. But when I look at the development, I am shocked and appalled to say it has not translated into social development in the sense that human consciousness has not elevated to the point where they can manage their love life. What we see in this economy is a lot of technological developments, but a lot of broken people, a lot of breakdown in relationship. And we cannot deny it because it's all around us. It's all around us. It's in our face. You just need to go to the divorce court to see how people who get married once upon a time and said they loved each other tear themselves apart. And I've been there and I've seen it so many times. And so when it comes to the subject of love and relationship, I can attest to you, I do not know nothing about this subject because everything I thought I knew about it, I've just thrown away. So I'm hoping today, Alex, you can answer my questions and the questions of all the other thousands and millions of single women who are out there who really want answers to their questions. So, without any further ado, I've got a couple of questions that have been sent to me, and I'm going to ask you the first one. Are you ready, Alex?
Let's do it. Maybe if I can have just a few words introducing myself to
Absolutely.
the
Go for
audience who's
that.
watching this live, and why why I speak about relationships to begin with. I'm married. I have two children. Married for a decade now, 10 years, and somewhere down the road after we got married, and we got married fairly quickly, things started to go wrong, right? It wasn't the good old relationship that we had. And that stimulated me to start looking for an answer. I've always enjoyed psychology and always was fascinated by psychology, spirituality, energetics, the human psyche, all of these things. And not understanding what was causing this type of friction, I mean, really friction in my family, drove me to do the research. And so the Love Method has been created in 2016 specifically as an answer to help people understand the institute and the relationship of a marriage, because it's unlike anything that we've been taught or have given examples of in movies and mainstream society. Um, and know how to approach it the right way in the beginning so that you save yourselves years and years and possibly decades of suffering that end up leading so many people to divorce. So this is just a little bit about me and why I'm so passionate about it. And then please let's start with the questions. I'm excited.
Okay, so and I love this question. It came from a lady called Mila, and she asked the question: how to formulate the criteria that a person is suitable for a relationship. I love this question because it's a deep one. Do you want me to repeat it?
How to formulate a criteria that a person is suitable for relationship, meaning
Absolutely.
the other person,
Yeah.
not me. I'm suitable for relationship, right? It's the other person. How do I find out whether they're suitable? And it's really our entire approach about dating, right? Is how do I figure out the other person is okay? Like I'm fine. I'm perfect, right? How do I figure out the other person? Um, you don't. You don't. Once you figure out yourself, right? We are a tool that senses. Our entire being constantly uh, is in search of some balance with our environment. Just like everything else in nature, in science, in chemistry, the elements always try to be in balance with our environment. If a person finds balance with himself or herself and heals the deeper wounds that we receive from childhood and certain beliefs that block us from really accepting love into our life. Love is something that you don't need to generate. It flows like a river. If nothing blocks it, it just flows. And a lot of times, understanding yourself, understanding your needs, understanding your desires, and understanding your expectations of your own self and how you receive love and how you give love, that awareness of who you are as an individual allows you to pick the person that is right for you. There is no, how do I find someone who's right? There's no right. There's right for you or wrong for you. And you know that by understanding yourself first.
Well, that's the problem. Most people don't understand themselves.
Sure.
And yes, and that is the big issue here. And so, how do I understand myself? Not to mention try to understand someone else. How can I understand myself?
Yeah, a lot of people end up spending years of suffering, going from one bad relationship to the other, eventually to come up with a question. So, having a question of how do I fix myself, right? Or how do I understand myself is a very valuable question because people don't naturally have that. So if you already have that question, then you begin by either reading certain books that explain about relationship, the nature of men, the nature of women. You begin to understand just from a natural perspective who we are as those sexes, right? Because we are very different. We think differently. We see the world differently. And so reading is is a very valuable thing to do. Writing is another valuable thing to do because as you write, even having a conversation on paper, I call it, it flushes out a lot of your hidden blockages.
Okay. Well, I was going to, I would have liked to accept reading as a tool that could enable me to understand myself because I do a lot of reading myself and a lot of writing. But I get to the point where I doubt that could possibly have helped me simply because I remember so many times I would write, what is it that I'm looking for in relationships? And I'll write all of the good things that I really want to see in a man. And then I realized that I'm not attracting that type of man in my life. And
Mhm.
I'm asking myself, why is it that I write down, this is the type of man that I would like in my life, but the opposites are the ones that I'm seeing? Something has to be deeper than
Mhm.
what I know about myself. And that was when I began to realize that this subject of relationship and love is more complex than the eyes meet. Because it's like you can know the theory, you could go to classes, you could go to all the gurus in the world, and they could tell you everything about how to choose a relationship. But then on the day itself, when you make the choice, you're making a choice which is so different from what is the theory. And I'll give you one example. I remember once I was going out with someone, and a friend of
Mhm.
mine, in fact, most of my friends, hated this one. They don't think it's right for me at all. But I was madly in love with the man. So, and despite the fact that everyone was pointing fingers on what's not right about this man, I couldn't see any of the flaws of the man. I could only see all the good things that I thought existed. And eventually, I married to that man. And it
Mhm.
was years down the line, 3 years down the line, all the things that my friends and relatives saw that they were actually pointing my attention to, I discovered were truth. I then asked myself, well, hang on a minute. I was told all of this right from the start, but somehow I bypassed everything my intelligence and all the people around me was telling me. So, how do you really choose? Are we choosing based on what we know theoretically, or are we choosing based on another factor that takes over in our decision making? Because that was the question I was left with. How did I make a choice which was so drastically wrong, theoretically, intelligently, but I made a choice anyway?
Because you didn't love yourself. You were looking for someone else to complete an emptiness within you, or a lack of self-esteem within you, where something within you needed to be completed. And instead of doing the work, you think that someone is going to come by, right? The knight in shining armor, the exciting hero in your life is going to save you from yourself. And unfortunately, in this life, such a hero doesn't exist. You're the hero, right? I'm the hero. Everybody is the hero in their own little story that is created on this earth for you, specifically for you. You who's watching, you specifically, you're the hero of your story. No one is going to save you. No one can save you. Even if they wanted to, they don't have the freedom to come and save you from yourself. You were created specifically the way you are today, with all the challenges and all the qualms and all the quote unquote deficiencies, so that you can discover and dig and own up the character of who you are. It's a wonderful journey. It's very exciting. But what a lot of people do, if I can just continue for a little bit, what a lot of people do is we are in a complete darkness when it comes to our awareness of the situation. And so a lot of times, most of the times, we operate by pure instinct. From the day we're born, raised by a certain type of environment, parents, some single parents, some adopted parents, some never had parents and grew up in a foster home, all different possible variations that exist on this earth. We've been molded into a certain personality that knows how to survive, right? How to escape from a certain level of pain enough to be able to comfortably exist on this in this reality, in this earth, in this planet. For each, the comfort level is different, right? For someone, a comfort level is having a yacht and three mansions and a private airplane, and for somebody else's comfort is just having something to eat every day. So the comfort level is different, but the fact that our mechanism, our psyche, our the most powerful thing in the world, is built to maintain us at the level like an air conditioner. You set it to 73. If we talk Fahrenheit, or 25 if we talk Celsius, and it's going to maintain the level. It's going to maintain it at 73, 25, whatever measurements you're on. And it's the same thing in our life. So the question is, how do I actually put myself in the type of environment that's going to help me set my thermostat at the level that I actually want to exist in?
Okay. Except you said something very profound. You said I did not love myself.
Mhm.
I didn't quite understand that. What do you mean by I did not love myself?
So most of us have a certain degree of lack of self-esteem, meaning we feel deficient in some ways. Um, for many people, they were shown that to be worthy of love, right, you have to do something. So you have to merit being loved, right? You have to be a good girl. You have to clean your room. You have to do your homework. You constantly have things to do to feel that you're loved and appreciated, or even not even loved and appreciated, maybe just accepted by somebody. And what it does to a child is it sets a level of self-esteem, right? Because through this upbringing, we learn to value ourselves. And so we learn that, especially for girls, it's extremely damaging because what girls learn is that you don't have inherent value, which you do. As a woman, you're infinitely valuable because you are connected to the highest source of energy in this universe. Men don't have connection to it. It's the energy of love. And it speaks through you and all women every single moment. The challenge is you don't know how to connect to it. A
Okay.
part of
Yeah,
a
go
part of
on.
my
Go on.
practice, a part of my practice and what I do is actually help you listen to yourself again. Be able to properly translate your emotions, the guidance that you receive, to be able to tune yourself by yourself with all the messages you receive every single moment so that you know, is this the right decision, the wrong decision? Is this the right person? Is this the wrong person? How does this reaction make me feel? It's extremely challenging to get into it, but once you do, and it begins to take its own kind of like instinctive approach, suddenly you realize that you're on a completely different level and you're a completely different person, and you attract, this is the most important thing, you attract automatically a completely different quality of people to you. It just magically happens. Why? Because of you, not because of somebody else.
Well, that's interesting because I think you just kind of veered off to something very interesting here. Because as it so happened, when you said I didn't love myself and I was attracting these type of relationships, which were effectively not very good for me, the funny problem about this was this, that I attracted a mixed bag of different types of people. I attracted ones who really loved me, but I never loved them. I always kept them as friends in my life.
Mhm.
They were my best friends. They were not lovers. And as soon as they tried to go that way with me, no, they have to be my best friends. They cannot be my lovers. Whereas the ones that were not so good are the lovers. Okay? So I ask myself many times when I step back and say, well, hang on a minute, why did you choose this person when this other one was such a nice person? But you said I don't love myself. Okay, I'm going to have to ponder on that because I know when I was reflecting back on this, because a lot of times women go through this kind of challenge. We make choices based on how we feel. But the feelings that we have,
Perfectly correct. You
yeah,
should
we're
make
making choices based on
it's
how we feel. But the feelings that we have, it's as though to me, when I was reflecting back, they were based on feelings that are associated with experiences that we have learned to believe to be ourselves.
mhm,
And so it's natural for you to gravitate to someone who will give you that type of feeling because that's what you're used to. So a feeling of rejection, if that's what you're used to, you gravitate to someone who rejects you, and you don't understand that that is what is happening to you later on down the line. So why did I choose this person? If you go back and look at how you were feeling when you met that person, you felt good about it. But if you go back and look at, well, I'm going to treat you badly. All the relationship that you've had in your life were treating you badly. And that's the feeling that you have within you because that's what you used to. So I suddenly began to recognize that is it possible to change one's trajectory in love relationship? The first thing is to look at how you're feeling and what your feeling is related to. Because if you keep choosing people who are giving you the same experience, you soon realize that your feeling is tied to that experience. And how do you break free from that?
How do you break free from that?
Yes, because a lot of women are in that problem. A lot of times I hear people come to me and talk to me about problems, and then I'm listening to this problem. I'm thinking, well, hang on a minute. Have you not noticed this was always in your life? But they haven't noticed it, and obviously, having in that shoes myself. So then the question is, how does one? It's easy to say, oh, choose someone like this, but we don't choose based on what our brain tells us. We choose what based on how we feel. And if the feeling is tied to bad relationship, you keep choosing bad relationship because that's what your feeling is tied to. How do you break free from that?
I guess you just have to suffer a little more.
until until you get to this point where you hate being suffering. You hate suffering.
Well, a person has to come to a point where I'm doing certain things, right? I keep getting the same result. I don't like the result. So, oh, I have an idea. I'm going to break off this relationship and start a new one. Great. Break off this relationship, start a new one. Same results. So at some point, a question has to come up, right? Why do I keep getting the same results? They're different people. They're different people, but the result is the same. So maybe once you figure out the common denominator to all of the result is not the different people, but you, then you can begin to ask the right questions.
And what should be the right question that people should ask, a woman should ask? Because there are women who are gonna watch this after, and they will want to know what question they need to ask themselves. Because this is about taking responsibility for your own decisions and not leave it in the hands of someone else.
Look, I've had an exercise with one of my clients where on on the first call, I realized that she's so detached with herself from herself, and she lives by some you should that was instilled to her by parents and friends and society. You know, that I should be with this guy and I should, all of these I shoulds, and she didn't know what she wanted. I didn't go hard on the first call, but on the second call, I just said to her, and I'm saying this to you and all of you, and really, really do this exercise. Okay, if you're going to do anything, do this exercise. Think about your life right now, the relationships, everything, the good, the bad. Think about it, right? Really feel it. And then imagine you're living the same life 3 years from now, and then the same life 5 years from now. Nothing's changed. And then it's the same life 10 years from now. Now you're like 50s, 60s, 30s, depending on how old you are that is watching. Another 15 years, you're like 65 and it's still the same. So once you begin to amplify, right, suddenly you're like, wow, now it feels like it's okay, but in 10 years, I don't want to live this life. I want something to change. And we have to come to that point where I want something to change. I have to awaken the desire of excuse my language, but coming out of my own self, right? I wanted to say something else, but coming out of my own self and make a decision that I want to figure out once and for all how this thing works. Because other than a decision, other than the desire and the deficiency, Nothing else is lacking. All the information is there. I can tell you from experience that the information read by a person who's not ready to change and the same information read by a person who is ready to change is completely different information. So it's just the readiness to implement and the readiness to actually have something real in your life. The actual readiness to be appreciated and be loved and be genuinely desired in your relationship. That's all you need. So how do you get to that level of readiness? You start appreciating yourself. But as sad as it may be, many of you, as I know many of my clients, looked at me and said, I'm sorry I'm asking this question, but how do I appreciate myself? At age 40, a grown woman is asking me, how do I appreciate myself? And so it's a question that is both painful and beautiful because you understand that, yes, maybe up until this point, you don't know how to love yourself and you don't know how to appreciate yourself. But from this point, you have the opportunity to develop that. So get excited.
Okay, so how do we do this? How to appreciate yourself?
Good.
This is not a discussion where we're just going to talk theory. We want people to know
Not
the
theory,
practice.
extremely practical. Extremely
It's
practical.
got to be practical because I want to
Mm.
make sure that the ladies who are going to be watching this are going to know exactly how to appreciate themselves. I'll tell you one of the things that I would normally do that I started
Mhm.
doing. I will tell you. I don't know
Yeah.
about. I remembered when I divorced. I made up my
Mhm.
mind. I am not even going anywhere near any relationship because I think the first person I need a relationship with is me. And
Mm.
I think I don't have a relationship with me. I think I've left me out of the equation for too long and I'm trying to fix others through me and it's not working. So I
Mhm.
want to know who me is. So the first thing I need to do, I used to begin to go to the sauna.
Mhm.
I treated myself to the sauna every week.
Mhm.
And most importantly, and this was crazy, people thought it was crazy, but I used to buy a bunch of flour every Friday.
Mhm.
And people would ask me, who's the flour for? It was for me. And I would,
The most important person in my life.
exactly, it is for me. So I
Mhm.
began to buy a bunch of flowers, and today I am surrounded with plants all around me because that was how I began to get back to nature. Then,
Mm.
as I was buying these flowers for myself, and right now there's a bunch of flowers right in front of me. I began to live a life where if you come in my space, it's almost like it's full of flowers and roses all over. And I began to recognize that you are special, Sheila. The
Mm.
more I was doing this, the more I began to realize I don't need anyone to give me any gift anymore because I know how to give myself the gift that I deserve. For my birthday, whereas in the past I crave someone to give me a present, no. I buy myself the best birthday gift that I think I deserve every year, and I give it to me. And when I will buy these things, people will say, "Oh, are you buying it for?" I'm buying it for me. I
Mhm.
remember my daughter will say to me, "Mommy, this is not, and this is very weird. Nobody goes off and buy things like that for themselves." I said, "Yes, because if you see me, and you know what happened a few years down the line? My kids, for my birthday, I would hear them arguing on the phone. You can't buy that for mom. It's too cheap. Mom will certainly not want that. You've got, and they will be arguing between themselves. They have to go buy some designer shoes for mom, or one day they bought an expensive coat. And then I realized that I've changed my view about myself. Because
Hmm.
I remember when they gave me one expensive coat, and I thought, how much did it cost? I said, well, mom, you're the only one who deserved this coat. We actually saved money to buy you this because we know you will not accept any cheap coat from us.
Hmm.
So I recognize that a lot of times women do not appreciate themselves. And I began to do that to me. And I do it deliberately. And sometimes when I buy attire for myself, I dress up and I work from home and I will wake up in the morning, dress as if I'm going to see the queen. And my
Hmm.
daughter will say, why are you dressed like that, mom? I said, I'm not dressing for anyone. I am dressing for me. So, regardless of whether anyone will see me in this attire, I feel good in this attire and I'm dressing for me. Not because I want to impress anyone, but because I deserve to wear this particular attire. So, I think perhaps is that what you mean by appreciating yourself?
So first of all, for everyone, you've heard Sheila speak, and I really want to analyze because for many people, spending so much attention on yourself can sound like, well, you're self-centered, right? But I want to tell you that Sheila is the most giving, the most loving person you can possibly encounter. It's a person with an open heart, unlike you've ever met. And what allows her the strength to do that and to be that person is only this approach of first I have to, and by the way, this approach for all women, this is how you love yourself. You love yourself for yourself first, but then you realize that you love yourself for others. Because once you love yourself and you give yourself the gifts and you treat yourself to spas and you wear nice clothes because you like how you feel, you suddenly realize that you begin to appreciate other people.
Yeah,
You don't just appreciate yourself, you appreciate others too. You start seeing the best in others. You start
yes,
loving other people, really loving other
absolutely.
people. And it opens you up energetically to a completely different way of living, seeing the world, interacting with people around you. People start reacting to you differently because suddenly you're positive, you're beaming, and people are attracted to your energy. So
Absolutely.
knowing how to, on a next level, how to guard your energy and make sure it doesn't ooze, it doesn't leak, you don't have energy leakages. um, it's extremely important because, right, so how do you invest yourself? Look, you have to ask yourself, what makes me feel good? What makes me feel? Maybe it's going for coffee with a certain friend. Maybe it's just locking myself in my room with a certain book, and escaping. Maybe it's public, maybe it's private, for each their own. And then you have to actually make a schedule with yourself, like you would with the most important thing in your life. Imagine the queen came to you and said, Sheila, I want to have a cup of tea with you, or the king, or whatever it is, or the president, depending on where you live, the prime minister, doesn't matter. And how would you actually not show up or be late? No. You'd make sure that all of your alarms are up, that your entire day is set for this. You would prepare, you would dress up, you would make yourself feel good, look good, and then you'd show up. With that importance, you have to show up for yourself. If you made a schedule, you made a plan, honor it, because you're honoring yourself. The way you treat yourself is how others will treat you, just like you mentioned with your kids. It's
Absolutely.
exactly it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's is so important. So I began to recognize that actually it's not about how to choose a man. If I want, I think at the beginning, you need to know what type of man you need in your life, but you have to become it yourself. You can, because I learned for the first time when I attracted someone in my life. I didn't eventually go out with him because I wasn't ready yet. And he met almost 70 to 80% of what I'm looking for.
Mm.
In fact, my friends used to say, "What is your problem? He loves you so much. He wants to marry you. What is your problem now? You know, you've always wanted this type of person. Now it comes to your life and you say no." But I like the idea that I said no, because for the first time, I felt I wanted something, but I could resist it. And if it's for me, it will still come to me anyway. I just don't want to chase anything just because it comes to me. Because my previous problem was I will say yes easily. And this was
Mhm.
another test that I had to go through to say, I don't want to feel like I am so desperate for a relationship. Desperation itself would take you in the wrong place. I want to be able to say that if this is a good relationship for me, it will come or it will stay there until the time is right. And that for me was another part of appreciating myself, because very often what I've noticed in the last decade of studying people in relationship is that people are afraid to be by themselves. People are afraid to be
Yeah.
lonely. The fear of loneliness in itself drives people into relationship. And then it doesn't work because you went there because you were fearful of loneliness, not because you love the other person.
Hmm.
It was all about you as well. It's nothing to do with the other. You didn't spend time to think about the other. You were thinking about, I don't want to be by myself.
Ooh, you know what just came to me? Wow. If you don't consciously focus on yourself, you will subconsciously try to steal that focus on yourself from others.
Yes,
And
absolutely. Absolutely.
really, I want everyone to really understand how it is. If you don't consciously make the effort of focusing on yourself, appreciating yourself, loving yourself, doing the things that you want, saying yes and no to the activities that you want to experience, then you still need this appreciation. You need to feel loved. You will try to manipulate others into appreciating you because you think you're getting it from them. So give yourself that present of love. Give yourself that present.
So I want to go back to how we started this conversation. It's been like a very deep
Okay.
discussion. How to choose a partner. And
Mm.
incidentally, we haven't given any criteria how to choose a partner, but rather to go back to say, well, hang on a minute, before you choose a partner, how about we turn the telescope towards you, and what are you doing for yourself to become a good partner to others?
Hmm.
Because so far that's what I'm picking up. What we've discussed so far is about, okay, you want to choose another partner, how to choose the person that is good for you. Well, let's start off with you.
Hmm.
Have you prepared yourself enough to become that person for the partner you really wish to
Hmm.
attract in your life? And all too often, I see also the joy of being out of a relationship and studying what's going on with others is to see a whole of different complexity. Also, often I see how people begin to blame the other person for not
Sure.
feeling that gap in themselves. Recently, I remembered I met a friend who was telling me all sorts of problems she was having in a relationship. And I have to say, I think you need to take on some kind of a hobby that you really love. Because if you can take on that hobby that you really love and busy yourself with it, maybe your partner will just find you very attractive because you're not looking for your partner to fill the gap. You've already filled it with something that you really love, and you could become attractive. Take on painting, and one day you'll see your partner looking at, wow, my girlfriend or my partner, my wife, is a great painter. And you're attracted to that person. But very often, what we do, We want the person to feel the void and we start complaining.
I want to start with a slightly different direction. A woman is born into this world in a level of complete perfection. Complete perfection. There's nothing possibly you can add to that little woman that is born to make her more perfect. She is just full of love and perfection, and that's it. Boys are different. Boys are born in complete lack. They're nothing, right? They're boys. And so to become a man, a boy has to start overcoming, right? He as he overcomes even building blocks, right? Walking, building blocks. He learns how to overcome challenges. He acquires tools to manage this life, to be the leader, the protector, the to realize his skill into the world, to be able to give. He builds these tools as he overcomes. Women are collectors of energy that exude energy. If a woman is empty, she has nothing to give. She can't generate it out of thin air. If a woman is full, she can feed the whole world without doing anything. You don't need to do anything. A woman's energy works on its own. It does on its own. It feeds on its own. It gives love on its own. It doesn't, there is no work in that level of perfection. You're just being in this level of constant joy and happiness and love. And everyone around you is supporting you, loving you, giving you things, doing this and doing that. And like, how can I help? And why? Because you're in this energy of complete love and wholeness. And somewhere down the line, we're teaching girls that you're not enough. You need to do this to be perfect. You need to do that to be perfect. You need to do this to be appreciated. And that little self-esteem is broken. So this is your opportunity to begin to reconnect to yourself internally. And what does that mean? And it can sound confusing, but essentially is listening to how you feel, how you really feel. The way someone talks to you, if it doesn't feel good, you don't participate in this conversation. You don't need to worry if you're being rude. You don't need to worry what anyone will think of you. You don't need to worry about any other calculation than your feelings. Imagine inside of you is a little helpless girl who's communicating to you how she feels. And your job is to protect her and make sure that she feels your love and your care for her. That you don't put her in any situation she doesn't want to be in. And instead, you put her in a bunch of situations she does want to be in. And then she begins to open up. And as she opens up, that little girl inside, as she opens up, you get so much strength, confidence. You start feeling yourself better. Because that
Alex,
little
before we
voice.
go on, let me read some of the comments on the chat. I
Okay,
just saw the comments on the chat, and we've got
okay.
just less than 2 minutes. So, comments. We should have, there's a suggestion, we should have a workshop called How to Appreciate Yourself. Another comment was, I just started going to the sauna last week. Very funny. So I think we have less than 1 minute to wrap up.
Okay.
What would we like people to take away from today's discussion in 30 seconds?
What can we take away from today's discussion?
Yeah, what do we want the women to take away from today's discussion?
Start keeping a diary where you track how you feel throughout the day.
And
Just
do more of what
no,
makes you
don't
feel
do
good.
anything. Don't
Okay,
do anything.
okay.
Just begin to raise the awareness of how you feel. From there, consciousness will take care of the rest.
Super. So thank you very much for those of you who have been watching us. And I dare say, if you would like any specific question answered next month, please DM me, send me a message. We will ask Alex questions next week. So until next month, see you all and thank you for supporting this event. It's been